Welcome to Kari's Conscious Living. Are you ready to meditate with Kari? Make sure that you're laying comfortable. Check the light is just right in your room and everything feels right, ready for you to relax. Tonight's story is all about a dog called Bella. Bella had a best friend, Amy. Amy was 9 years old and she'd had Bella all her life. Bella belonged to Paul, one of her stepdads. Amy had two stepdads, Paul and Simon. And she loved Bella very, very much. Bella was a German Shepherd and she was 14 years old. Bella was getting very old, in fact. She'd recently had a visit to the vets for one of her normal checkups, her yearly checkups, and the vet had said to Paul and Simon and Amy that Bella was getting very old, and just to prepare yourself that any time now Bella could decide that she was too tired to live here anytime soon. Bella might decide that she needs to go to heaven. She needs to go to a quiet place. A place where her bones and her muscles and her tired old body doesn't hurt anymore. Paul and Simon were very sad about this, but it was really hard for Amy because Amy had lived with Bella her whole life. She'd never known life without Bella, and it would be so hard and so sad not to have Bella in her life. Amy was down and depressed and sad for quite a few days after the vet's visit. Paul and Simon decided that they needed to do something fun for the family, something that would cheer all of them up, so they decided to take Bella on a trip of a lifetime. They decided that maybe if this is Bella's last year here with them as a family, that they would do an amazing trip, a trip that Bella and Paul, Simon and Amy would never ever forget. A trip of a lifetime, an adventure that they would talk about for years and years and years after. An adventure designed to make Bella, the German Shepherd, the happiest dog in the world. They packed the truck with all of the supplies that they needed. They'd planned the trip for weeks in advance, so everything was organized. They had different areas in the truck with different bags in that would help them so that they knew that when they would stop at different places that they were going to travel across America, they would have all of the things that they would need, the right clothes, the right food, things like that. Everyone was super excited. Paul and Simon sat in the front of the truck and Bella sat in the back with Amy. And they set off on the trip of a lifetime. The first place that they stopped was a place called Snoqualmie Mountain in Washington. This place was where Bella was going to get to play in the snow. Bella loved the snow. While they were there, they stayed in a snow lodge, and they stayed there for 3 days. They had 3 days of playing in the snow, drinking hot cocoa, sitting by the fire, having s'mores, doing all the things that you would do that would be fun in the snow, and also at the same time where you would go where it would be nice and warm, where you had a fire, where you could all sit around and watch the flames and think about all the fun years that they'd had with Bella. Bella did really good in the snow. She didn't move as fast as she used to when she was younger. Sometimes she just stood and licked the snow. But she looked very happy, and they were very glad that they came to the mountain pass in Washington and stayed there for just a few days. The next thing that they were going to do was go to a place called Glacier Park. This was also in Washington. Glacier Park was a place where they were going to go hike. They were going to look at the lakes. There was a particular lake that was next to an active volcano, and it was the most beautiful place ever. It was surrounded by giant pine trees, so tall. And Bella loved being in the woods, being in the forest, feeling all the pine underneath her feet. You could see she was very happy, and she would stop lots and lots and lots to smell the different trees, as if she was smelling all the people that had ever been there before. They stayed here at Glacier Park just for 2 days. And every day they would get up and they would go for a hike, and they would take their time because Bella seemed to be walking quite slow. So they didn't hike too far, but when they hiked, they took their time and they took in all of the surrounding sights. Amy's favorite part of Glacier Park was when Paul and Simon attached a hammock to one tree and another tree, and Bella and Amy got to lay in the hammock and just look up at the trees and look up at the sky. It smelled so good there, like pine trees and Christmas trees and damp, wet forest ground that smelled like earth and mud, and it was so nice. Bella looked like she really liked it there. She really liked the trees, and she liked to walk just a little bit. They had a really fun time there, but it was time to move on. The next place that they stopped took them quite some time to get there. They rode for quite some time in the truck, which was okay because they played games, and they slept, and they ate, and they stopped, and they slept, and they ate, until they ended up at a place called Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe was in North America, and there was where they were going to go paddleboarding. The rivers there were so clear and fresh. They paddleboarded, they swam. Amy put Bella at the end of her paddleboard, and Bella just sat there very still, very quietly, and occasionally she would bend down and lick from the stream or from the water. They stayed in Lake Tahoe for about 3 days. They camped there. They set up tents. It was very relaxing. All they did was spend time down by the lake. Bella got to swim whenever she wanted to, which seemed to be good for all of her joints. It was like being weightless in the water helped her old, tired bones and muscles. And for a moment, Amy looked at her and thought she looked quite young again. She had a lot of fun there. Next came the Great Sand Dunes National Park, North America. You can imagine what they did there. At one point, they hired a dune buggy and they rode over the sand dunes. Bella was strapped in along with Amy, Paul, and Simon, and they had so much fun. They were going up over the dunes, down on the beaches. It was a really fun trip. They also got to just relax on the sand. Amy came prepared. She brought her sandcastle buckets and spades, and they made sandcastles, a castle big enough for Bella. They spent all day creating a big, giant sandcastle all around her. She looked like a giant queen in the middle, surrounded by this giant sandcastle. Bella looked happy. They got back in the truck. It was time to go to the next place. The next place was in Arizona. It was called Horseshoe Bend. Horseshoe Bend was a place where you could climb up a tall mountain, sit at the top of the mountain, look down and see the horseshoe-shaped river down below. It was one of the prettiest sights Amy had ever seen. From way up high where they were, the waters down below looked dark blue, shimmering in the sunlight. And the rocks all around were this amazing orange that glowed off the sun. It took them quite some time to climb the mountain, and that was okay. They did it nice and slow so Bella didn't get too tired. They stopped and had snacks along the way, drank lots of water, and by the time they got up there, it was well worth the effort. Amy was 9 years old, and she thought that this was one of the best things that she'd ever seen so far in her life. They only stayed at Horseshoe Bend for a day. That evening, when they got down off the mountain, they drove to a hotel and rested that night. And then the following morning, they drove to a place called Beartooth Mountains, all the way in Montana. Beartooth Mountains was a place where you could just walk in nature, on the fields, see the flowers, walk on rolling hills, green grass, blue skies. Bella's favorite place, I think. It was so simple. They walked in nature and had a nice time all day. And then they laid down a blanket, opened up their picnic hamper, had dinner together, and sat and watched the sunset. Bella looked very tired. She slept through the whole thing. But Amy thought that if she was awake, she would probably think that this was the best sunset she'd ever seen. They camped there that night, and then the next morning, they went to the best place in the world. They drove home. It took them a long time to drive home, but when they got home, Bella's tired bones slowly got out of the truck walked into the house and laid on her big, soft, comfortable bed. Bella slept the bestest sleep ever. And when Amy went to bed that night in her own bed, it felt so nice to be home, to be in her own bed, in her own space. Her covers smelt familiar. Her bedroom was comforting and safe and warm. And that night she dreamt. She had a dream that her and Bella were running through the clouds in the sky. Bella was young again. She was jumping in and out of the clouds. Both of them were jumping on the clouds as if they were big, giant trampolines. And then they were running through fields of white daisies. And Bella looked the happiest she'd looked in such a long time. Her coat was shiny, and her eyes were bright, and she was moving as if she was 10 years younger, jumping and running and playing. It was one of the best dreams Amy had had. And when she woke up in the morning, she came downstairs to find that Paul and Simon had laid a blanket over Bella. Bella had gone to sleep for her final time that night. She wasn't going to wake up anymore. Bella had decided it was time for her to go to heaven, time to rest. Amy cried, Paul cried, Simon cried, everyone cried, they hugged each other. It was such a sad day. It's always so sad when you lose one of your pets. But this was super sad for Amy because Bella had been like a sister. She'd lived with her whole life. They all sat around Bella and stroked her face and stroked her fur until the vets came and took Bella away. Even though it was so sad that day, Amy, Paul, and Simon were so thankful that they got to have the trip of their lifetime with Bella. They got to spend such quality time with her, and they gave her memories that she would probably never ever forget, and she would take all of the wonderful sights with her to heaven. Amy was most happy that she'd had that dream, that special dream where they were jumping in the clouds and running through fields of white daisies together. It was as if Bella was sending Amy a message that she was already in heaven. She was young again, she was fit and happy and bouncy and playful. She was in a really good place, and she wanted Amy to see how happy she was. So even though Amy was so sad that she'd lost Bella and she wouldn't be in her life anymore, she would have the memory of the trip, all the memories over the years of being with Bella, and this special dream that she had would stay with her forever. This helped Amy to get through such a hard time. Losing Bella actually brought the family closer, and they made sure that they would talk every night during dinner, just to remember Bella and to talk about if they were sad or happy. For a few weeks after Bella went to heaven, every night during dinner, they would mention something that made them happy that Bella had done in the past. They would have like a memory game. I remember when Bella stood on her water and it flipped over and slashed her in the face. And they all laughed. Or I remember when Bella was running through the woods in the forest on our adventure of a lifetime, and she looked so happy. Sharing these memories really helped all three of them get through the loss of Bella. And even though Bella wasn't there with them anymore, they often felt her in the house, as if she came to visit sometimes just to be with them. They left Bella's bed in the kitchen for a week after she'd gone, and sometimes Amy would sit on her bed just to feel close to her. Sometimes she would lay down and get sleepy and decide to take a nap. She would let her body get sleepy and relax. She would close her eyes and imagine that Bella was right there with her, snuggling in as she started to go to sleep. The days passed and the weeks passed and the months passed. And it was still sad, but things got easier over time. They never forgot Bella, but things did get easier. The end. Now, my little friend, if you have lost a dog or a cat or a hamster or any pet that you loved, I'm sorry. But do know that they're in a really good place and they're probably having lots of fun somewhere up there in the sky. Time for you to go to sleep now. Time to rest. Relax your body. Maybe you'll have a wonderful dream. A dream where you're running and playing in fields of daisies, just like Amy and Bella, or bouncing and jumping on the clouds. Start to let your body get sleepy and tired so you can sleep and dream. Sweet dreams, my little friend.